Bonjour.
Bonjour, he said. You're on the half one, but
Oh, okay.
okay. I need to write it all four. But I'm gonna do it tomorrow. And I'm not gonna do it tonight or tomorrow morning. Sure.
Tomorrow. But you can do one or two tonight.
No, because I don't know the practice of them.
This-
Yeah, okay.
But in the day you need to tomorrow in the day you need to be close to the school.
Okay. Okay. Ciao.
Right.
Ciao. Odisky.
What's going on, brother?
What's going on, Brody? I feel like it's been a minute. Is it just me?
Yeah, it has been a minute
It
because we
has
did
been a minute.
that off schedule. Oh, did I lose you?
I can hear you or and see you
Oh, you can hear me. Okay. Yeah, we had that off scheduled podcast that we did. So we haven't talked for over a week.
for over a week. It's almost been 2 weeks. Almost. It's like been a week and a half, probably.
Yeah, about a week and a half. A
What
lot
did
has
I?
happened.
A lot.
Within that time, did you see your mom, your brother, and your friends?
I saw my mom, my brother, and my
Or was
friends.
that before?
No, that was this past weekend. That was this past weekend. I saw my mom, my brother, and three of my friends. It was crazy.
How did that all work?
It,
Because you didn't really have any plans, right? Or didn't have
no,
it really coordinated out.
it
That
actually, yeah. No, it wasn't. It wasn't very coordinated at all. But the two separate teams were quite coordinated, right? So, for example, Gabe and Jack were quite coordinated in their schedule. So when I could hop in, they're like, "We're gonna be here at this time." So I'm like, "Okay, let me see what's going on." Boom, then hop in for like a dinner or a lunch. So they had already made the reservations to include me. And then essentially the rest of the time was with my mom and my brother. So I had meals, I would say, most meals, most dinners with Gabe and Jack, and then Harry as well. But then I spent the rest of the time with my mom and brother. So it worked out really well, and everyone was very, obviously. But at the beginning, for me, I was like, I'm scared. Like I'm no, this is too
yeah,
much. This is
how is it gonna work?
overwhelming. How's this gonna work? But obviously, everyone's like, dude, just do your thing. But so that was
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, that was really nice.
Was Harry with Gabe and Jack, or did he kind of do his own thing?
Harry was doing his own thing. Harry was family. Harry was on a little long family trip with his brother and his parents. So he was on a family trip. So he spent most of the time with his family, and then he did the same thing essentially, right? So yeah, so he hopped in, joined
Okay.
that, then hopped back. It worked out really nice, and it
So was it
was
just coincidence with Harry being there at the same time, or did they
coincidence,
plan that?
coincidence, but yeah, random coincidence. And I think if I recall correctly, when you said that you might visit me in Paris, it was around this time too.
It would
Was it
have
that
been
May 10th,
last
maybe?
week.
Okay,
It would
okay.
have been last week. Yeah.
Then
Early in
yeah,
the week. Yeah, that's crazy. So it probably
those
would have just been before, but that would have been a hectic, that would have been a really hectic week.
those plans fell through though. Those plans fell through, but that's okay.
Yeah,
That's okay because we'll
yeah,
be
those
seeing each
plans fell
other.
through.
We'll be seeing each other in August, which is coming up.
Yeah, in
In
August,
my
that's the plan. That's the plan. Yeah, I know you're gonna also be busy then too,
no,
but my
no, no.
brother's there as well. So.
Your brother is there, so you have strong ties to Chicago. You have strong ties to
Yeah,
Chicago.
yeah. He's over by, I want to say, pretty close to Wrigleyville.
Okay, and he's been there for a couple
Yeah.
years now. Couple years.
It's probably been 1 year now.
Okay, all right. That I'm imagining that.
Wait, yeah, yeah, just yeah, 1 year because he drove from St. Louis when I went and visited you because he was living in St. Louis, or he took the train
Uh,
when I was visiting you, and then I flew to Paris actually from
yeah.
Chicago. He came from Missouri because he was living in St. Louis at the time.
Okay. Okay. I can
Yeah,
imagine that Denver Chicago road trip must be something actually.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's around 16 hours, I want to say, or maybe 14 hours or so. around there?
Can I help you? I don't
Yeah,
think I can
that's a
help you.
little bit.
She's wearing backwards glasses, like which are actually kind of cool. There's glasses, but they have a mirror that you can see also behind you and in front of you. Uh,
Oh, so she's looking at what you're doing, but she's
yeah, how many fingers of R are you look? Yes.
acting as if,
How
yeah.
many fingers?
So
It's kind of all right. I need to-
like that's
How's their English?
her English is great, isn't it, Clem? How's your English? You want to say hello?
mm, that's
I
one.
can't hear anything.
Okay, never mind. She said her English is fantastic. All right. I told you that I'm doing something, or no? Smile all the time. Can I help you with anything in this minute or time?
She said we have
All right, I'm gonna put it for the rest of the call, okay?
anything.
Well, I can see in the front. Shoo, 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 shoo. Huh?
Can I
Oh
put
my
it?
goodness.
Anything can I
2, 4. I actually think these are super cool. I need to look further into those because I'm sure the freaking Mark Zuckerbergs of the world are hooking up with that right now. Anyways, um, so yeah, communication. Uh,
So what happened today? You said you lost the something to
dude,
the house, the key to the house.
yeah, the keys. I lost them yesterday. I lost them yesterday coming back home. So luckily I didn't come home too late, and I don't know how, right? I don't know how, but I came home at like 10 and I didn't have my keys. And as you know, I'm living, with a host family. So it's not my house. So I was very concerned. And so they had to open me up last night. And then, yeah, it's just kind of this anxiety, stress that you have made someone else's life more difficult because of a mistake that you made. But that's
Yeah.
life. That is life. And so today I ran around a little bit to different like locksmiths trying to find a replacement key. It's quite a fancy, complicated key as well. So they have to
Oh.
order it. It's going to take some time. So it's going to be a bit of a drawn out process. But my main anxieties lied towards communicating this to the family. Um, but that part is over now. So I feel a little bit better. That makes
How did
sense.
it go? Were they upset?
They weren't ecstatic. They weren't ecstatic. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, makes sense. They'll get
Makes
over
sense.
it.
Makes sense. C'est la vie. 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 But yeah. So I had like a couple of 24 hours of like just like, oh, bro, like and you just kind of want to
What
like.
do you think happened? Just fell out of your pocket or just you left him somewhere? Like left him on when you were looking in your backpack, or do you usually put him in your backpack or do you keep him in your pocket?
I'm a pocket key kind of guy. So I am speculating that they just fell out of my pocket as I was grabbing something out of it. But still weird, still bizarre. I still feel like they're gonna show up just randomly. But no, I have flipped my room upside down and flipped every possible corner. I also just retraced today. I didn't know what to do. I retraced my whole way that I did. I walked like for an hour and a half in Paris yesterday, and so I just
Wow.
retraced the whole way. And anyways, just I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I was doing, frankly. I was kind of panicking. I was
Oh
kind
my
of
gosh. Yeah,
panicking,
I can imagine how that feels though.
you know? But you know what I was thinking? I was thinking that at the JP, and obviously this goes for any other thing where you have a responsibility over something and then you make a mistake and therefore you not only affect yourself, but you affect other people. At the
Mhm.
JP, I mean, that was the daily thing, you know? You're running something like that every day, every single day. But I guess the turnover is so quick that, meaning the turnover in the amount of time that you have to move on from whatever thing that just happened because the new thing is in front of you. I think that clock was so much quicker. And this clock with au pair is actually pretty quick too because there's always something new that comes up, with the kids and everything. But that clock at JP was like flipping over. So,
Oh my
which to
gosh, yeah.
which yeah, um, as you know, which means that oftentimes I was in prolonged for me personally. I really struggle with that because I was in prolonged period of anxiety because like you make a mistake and also mistakes run a momentum too. So you make one and then you lose your head and then you make another one and then that piles
Yeah,
on. It's
they
like,
come in
oh,
threes.
they come in, they come in threes. They do. They really do. That is a fact. That is a fact.
Yeah,
So yeah,
it's also I feel like as we stay there for longer, of course, the mistakes kind of they just become less and less frequent, which
yeah,
was that was nice. It feels when you're in a role, even the au pair, literally doing anything, when you do it for some time and you feel like, okay, I know how to handle this,
right,
I got this. It's a
right.
great feeling.
It's
It's a
true.
great feeling.
It's true. It's true. Are you there yet
Like, are
with
you
your?
you've probably already hit your stride, right?
I've I have hit my stride. I have hit my stride. Um, yeah, I think there's also something to say in terms of the level of call it mistake that you do that gets you more confidence. Like for example, if you're starting early, you're gonna do the small ones. Okay, you're gonna get over that. Do I have 87 cents? I do not have 87 cents.
Do you have,
Huh?
do you have one?
No. So what are we gonna do about it?
I use it.
Um, communication, man. Communication.
How is my how is my
Use it.
image right now? How's my video?
You look bloody fantastic.
Oh wow, okay, that's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
How's mine? And how's my audio? For some reason, I feel like my audio isn't good.
The audio isn't bad. The
Mm.
video, it says TikTok Diop's network bandwidth is low.
Ooh.
But it might not matter because you're recording, not me. So maybe it honestly won't matter.
I think you this is your one you like that one or like that.
I'm thinking about this, but I think this is probably easier to carry, right? Since it's one coin compared to 10 of them.
But then
Okay, goodbye.
Are you only
Um,
speaking English with them now?
yeah, it was always the
Always
case.
only English.
Always only English, yeah. Because they're my part of my the thing is that they get to improve their English.
Okay.
And that's really the only like my French improvement comes from the listening side of things when they talk between each other. But yeah, it's all only English.
At the dinner table too?
At the dinner too is no at the dinner table is strictly in French. But when they speak to me, they'll speak to me in English, and I'll
Okay.
respond mainly in English. But in general, it is mainly English. But at the dinner table, when they speak with each other, obviously it's all French. And that's
Okay.
when usually I like to sit and listen. Yo, Clem, Clem, what you on? First of all, we have a knock policy. That's five knocks, five times, and you just barge in here. What's up?
can you actually read all that?
No, 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 no. We already had this conversation
Did you just watch it?
because I don't want the coins. You need the coins. Remember?
No. If you want,
You have 8 more euro coins. Okay. Oops. Okay, go. We're gonna have this conversation right now. No, no, no. Don't keep me here. Don't. No.
when you
All right. All right. You're good. You're good. You're
goodbye.
good. Goodbye.
I want it.
What
Take it back.
happened? She owes you money?
No, she does not owe me money. She wants to exchange. She wants to do a little exchange with all coins, and I was telling her coins are good. Coins are good.
Yeah, but what from cents?
She says she has 20,000 cents, so she needs to exchange them. But your boy doesn't want the coins either.
What?
Your boy doesn't want the coins either.
Yeah, but it's good for you.
Huh?
It's good if you want to buy it. The only one you
Uh,
want. Okay?
yeah,
Is,
right. Okay.
because at the end with your BS, it's going to be the same. It's going to transform in coins.
We're gonna put you on the photo for this video. Might as well
No.
since you've been in all of it half the
Thumbnail.
time. Let's put it here right now. Come a little closer. Snapshot taken. Done. All right.
Okay?
Come on. Huh? We took it. Yeah, like we'll have to edit the video after and then we'll do the
Yeah.
snapshot. So you'll be
Hopefully
in the
she's
video.
fine with being famous because
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
a
Exactly. Oderah said hopefully you're okay with being famous. Yeah.
that answers it.
You too.
Thanks.
No, what?
Okay. Yeah.
Might have
Um,
to get parent consent for putting this on
hold
YouTube.
on. Hold on. We might have to sign something. She might have to sign. Um, you know what I wanted to ask you? I wanted to ask you a little bit of a gear shift. Gear shift? That doesn't sound right. It's a gear shift?
Yeah, gear shifting gears.
Shifting gears. All right, bet. Gear shift. Um, in your work, so new job, you're a couple months in. How do you feel? Speaking about mistakes and getting ramped up to speed in terms of your responsibilities, how comfortable you're feeling at work. 2 months in, you had, first of all, you started off with a pretty high intensity job. And yeah, I want to know how you feel about this new role in terms of the getting more comfortable with what you have to do on a day-to-day basis and the team as well, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely new role. You're gonna make mistakes. It just happens.
Hmm.
The one cool thing about this role is it's easier not to make mistakes on certain things because things are exactly the same. Like certain tasks are exactly the same. So like at JP, you have an account opening. It might not be exactly the same the process if you're opening up, an operating entity, a trust, or a just an account for an individual. But so it's hard to have, at least where in my office, we didn't have a step-by-step process, and we call them like a procedure or a process document. We didn't really have that at JP Morgan, but here in a more of a finance operations role, things are very similar. Like what you do at the end of the month is going to be exactly the same as the previous month and the month before that, and it will be
Yeah.
exactly the same in a month from now. So it's nice to have a document, and then you can just kind of step by step follow the method. And I mean, sometimes things will pop up, but it's much more similar to each other than a situation where there's just so many different outcomes. Like the outcomes are more similar. So that's a good thing. That helps with mistakes, at least. I mean, some people might think it might be a little bit boring if it's exactly the same, right?
Hmm.
But there's a lot of stuff, so it's not as if it feels as you're doing the exact same thing because there's a lot of different things that you're doing. But I think the what I like the most is trying to work on some technical skills, right? So Excel for like trying to really master Excel. I mean, Excel can be very basic, but it can be very, very complex, like all the way to
Yeah.
the VBA coding where you can literally just be coding in Excel essentially, as opposed to opening up a cell and doing equals and having a formula. Like you
Hmm.
could just be coding on the VBA platform. You got a little visitor. You're just not even gonna give it the time of day.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, the technical skills, those are nice to develop, and those hope I like to think that they'll be useful for the rest of my career. I like to think so, unless these tools become obsolete. But so Excel, um, SQL too.
Mm, I don't know
Yeah,
anything about that.
SQL.
SQL?
Basically, high level overview, SQL. Every company has a bunch of data stored in databases, and SQL is a software that you can access, that you use to access the data. So you access the data, you're basically calling the data, what tables you're trying to reference, what data you want to bring in, and then you can export it to Excel, and then you can do your manipulation in Excel. But you can do some in SQL too if
Mm,
you want to have it formatted a certain way before sending it to Excel. But typically it's from the database to SQL to Excel or Google Sheets, whatever you want to use after. But then I think the thing that's probably the coolest and that I want to really hone in on is just forecasting different things and different methods of forecasting
mm,
because you can do forecasting many different ways. It's all pretty similar, but knowing exactly what type of forecasting makes the best sense for whatever you're trying to predict is a that's I have not mastered that, and like, even the people around me who have been doing it longer haven't really mastered it, I would say. I think things are ever evolving, so it's not one size fits all. But yeah, I mean, whether it's to look at an 8 week daily average or look at month over month for the past couple of years, or you know what I mean? Like there's just a bunch of different types of ways, and it's akin probably to trading because you're trying to predict out the future. So I think it's a stimulating, intellectually stimulating process
It's an
that
art.
that I'm interested in.
Yeah, it's that's the creative side to it. It's the art. Like you can, there's no right answer, really.
No, no, there's not. I think that what you can do that I want to do a little bit more of is tracking accuracy, tracking performance. I'm a big proponent of tracking performance. Even you, I wanted right when you were talking about right when you were leaving JP and you wanted to start your own, you wanted to start trading again
Yeah.
because you almost, you had a couple incidents there. You had to take the foot off the gas. But right when you wanted to start trading again, I was like, are you going to compare yourself to the S&P or the Nasdaq? You had actually an interesting philosophy. Do you remember what your philosophy was at that time, and has it changed?
Yeah, I think it was, I think it was something along the lines that on a year-to-year basis, I could not care less what the S&P did versus what I did. Now, if you're looking 5 to 10 years, then it's where that I expect outperformance during that time length. But from a month to month or year to year basis, that is like not that can take away from my gain because there are times where the market is not very strong internally. Like there's not a lot of breath, there's not a lot of stocks moving, but the mega caps who carry the indexes have been rallying, right? And are very strong. And so you're skewed in the sense of like you might not be getting traction on your trades because the market internals are not very healthy, but the indexes are making progress. And then your FOMO is going to come out and be like, hey, the market is not healthy. I bet we pause, or I bet there's a correction coming, or I bet there's a bear market, or something is coming. But you get FOMO because the Qs are up 5% this month and you're down 2%. You're like, oh my God. And then that's when you can get out of line a little bit. I think that was my philosophy. But in terms of stats, man, yes, I totally agree with you. This is new for me, but love data. I love stats. The one thing that I really want to hone in on my trading is keeping as many stats as possible. Like as many stats as possible on anything in terms of, am I changing the order from a limit order to a market order? Am I doing that in the morning? Am I doing that the night before? In how many days am I getting stopped out of a position? 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, just as many stats as possible. Sam, Sam.
It's
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know what I'm
and
saying?
it's interesting because one of the takeaways I had right when I started at this new job was okay, forecasting in and of itself is not necessarily something that's extremely complex and difficult to understand, right? Whether it's like I mentioned, the two different types of forecasting, whether you're taking an 8 week average or you're looking at year over year performance or month over month performance to try to forecast out the future or some combination of all three of those. That in and of itself is not that difficult. And it's for me, I think about investing and how these two things sort of come together to make an investment philosophy. And to me, the real difficult part is okay, we all know how to forecast. It's not really the most difficult thing to just create and build a model that's forecasting. The difficult thing is saying, okay, what will the landscape be, or what other factors outside of just historical data is going to impact my forecast, and how do I want to take that into account? So, say a company, if we're talking about investing, a company releases and they say, hey, we're going to release, that you mentioned Zuckerberg, we're going to release Meta glasses, and that's going to be a new product for us. Everyone knows how to add another variable and put it into the model, but how much weight now? Now that's where it becomes, that's where the real difficulty lies. And some people might think that's obvious, but some people might not think it's as obvious. And there's kind of an aha moment. It's like, okay, it's not just knowing how to build out the model, it's knowing what weight to apply to certain factors, like whether it's macroeconomic, whether it's a new product being launched, whether it's some internal issues that a company is having, supply chain issues. How much is that going to impact your forecast? That to me, and FaZe and I were talking about that because I talked to him not too long ago. And that's what makes an investor, that's what makes you profitable, because if you're in line with everyone else, and if you're a consensus investor, you're not going to have any alpha. And so it's being able to have those views that are different than other people, and of course that are accurate,
Yeah.
which is interesting. But that comes after you understand how to build a forecast and know how to input variables into a model. But then you have to realize, okay, maybe I should pull the lever here a little bit, pull the lever here a little bit. But that part is like so difficult, so difficult.
That part is that is the respect towards the fundamental analysts right there that I have. That is how are you doing that and how are you doing with confidence? Man, I have no idea. But that is the art. That is art. And I bet it helps to be an industry specialist, for example. Let's say if you're focused on the industrial industry in specific, then you might know which levers come into play when different factors, when different in products, I guess, or when different services that might be already surfacing in their issue. But when there's something new, which is so difficult, and that's what, yes, that's what causes the actual alpha at the end of the day. When there's something new, AI, smart glasses, whatever, then you're like, nobody actually knows what the potential of this product or service is. Then yeah, you're right. Whoever gets that call right will make the big bucks. Whoever gets that
Right,
forecast.
right.
What? Yeah.
Sorry, carry on. You cut out on my end for a
No,
second.
no, just whoever, yeah, whoever gets that forecast right is the person who's going to make the money. But how you get to that is that person, even if you get that right, that person doesn't necessarily know. They're just making that high educated guess. And that's where, the game of probabilities comes in. And
Yeah.
that's where, risk management comes in too. Shout,
Risk manager over here.
shout out, shout out to my technicals people, risk
Big
management,
proponent
risk
of
management.
risk management. That's right. Yeah, yeah. And then I also listened to someone who was talking about the difference between investors and traders.
Mm.
And it was actually, I believe it was Ken Griffin, so
Ah,
Citadel CEO
okay.
and founder. And he basically was saying, traders know how to execute and they're very diligent, but in a different way. They have a different mindset as the investors on his team, which are investors need to be able to have. I look for investors who are really good at predicting what the future is going to look like a year, 2 years out. And I look at traders as people that are good at executing now. And I thought that was interesting because there is a fundamental difference between the two, and they probably think differently. And if you have this skill, a certain skill, it could make you a better trader or a better investor, maybe both, but typically, you have different strengths probably if you're a trader versus an investor, or I should say a successful trader versus a successful investor. Because there's
Mhm.
probably some traders that shouldn't really be trading. There's probably some investors that maybe shouldn't be investing, or at
It's
least the
true.
way that they are.
I don't know if I was talking to you about this, but when for example, sometimes people ask, and it depends on the context. Like I might not ever say that, but if we're talking about, if we're getting to know each other, and I'll be like, yeah, I like to trade, or I'm a trader, and they'll always be like, oh wow, so you're making the big bucks, you're balling. But the truth is that a high percentage, most likely, the fact is that I'm not balling, right? If you take, for example, a list of 10 traders, nine of those 10 traders are not balling and they are not profitable. So, anyways, all that to say. But on the trading and investing, there is something that I wanted to add to that.
Well, there's one thing that if you
Yeah,
if
go
you
on.
remember, hop in. I mean, cut me off at any point if you remember your
Yeah,
question. But I did want to also talk about Warren Buffett, and because he just had, I think
legend.
it's really timely because just a month ago or so he stepped down, or he announced that he'll be stepping down at the end of the year for as the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. I guess I listen to him, and I am someone who admires him as an investor. I think the stat was 20% annualized returns over his investing career, which is double the S&P 500. So that to me is very astonishing. Now, I have heard people say, some people claim that it could be partially luck. At least PhD professors in finance have claimed that.
Whoa,
Eugene Fama has said something to that nature.
wow.
But super interesting stuff. I mean, one thing that he mentioned was the difference between real estate investing and investing in the securities market. And he was basically said in real estate, there's so many different things that you have to deal with that just make it more challenging of an asset class. He said, if you're talking to a seller, you will agree that you want to do a deal, and then the negotiation process starts. And he said, you have to negotiate back and forth. It's a very, very long process. And then also on the residential side, if you're buying a home, there's so much emotion tied to it from the seller, right? Because it's their
Mhm.
home. It's something that they just feel really tied to. But on the stock market and in equities or in securities, he's like, you can go to the stock exchange and do $1 billion anonymously and be done that day. And so I thought it was super interesting to hear how he thinks about the two types
Mm.
of asset classes. And he said, especially with rates where they are right now, it's even more unattractive. But I think a lot of people our age want to jump into real estate, but it can be, it's not always peaches and roses. No, neither is it security investments,
Mm-mm.
but I do think that there are some hurdles that's probably that people should probably be aware of, and it might make them a little bit more cautious before investing into real estate. What do you think? Do people in your life, people around your age, your friends, do you think they're more inclined to invest a lot of money in the securities market or more into real estate?
Most of my friends are, I would say, yeah, invest in the securities market right now. I think just smaller barrier to entry is really the reason for that at our age. But man, there is something to say about real estate, which I'm not very educated on at all. But I would say that it also depends, and I think investors should think about their personality types as well. Because I think that you want that to be somewhat aligned with the type of investment that you're making, just in terms of time frame. Like real estate people, if you are, let's say our age and you're a real estate person, depending on if you're flipping houses, right? You can, that's a whole different world as well. You can choose your time frame in real estate too. But let's say you're a buy and hold real estate investor, if that term even exists. But I mean, you as a personality type should, you're probably going to be a very patient person. You're probably going to be a person who's done a lot of due diligence on their investment before they make that investment. Since it's going to be a 10-year one, you are going to have, quite high conviction on that. Let's say you're making one trade, right? You are investing in one stock, you're buying one property. So the amount of, I guess, the thinking into terms of what goes on that investment should align with, who how you tend to act in a lot of ways. Because if you're making a 10-year investment and in 2 years you get um, a real estate market crash, right? In that scenario, that's where you're really going to be tested. Your conviction is really going to be tested. And if you're not aligned to that previous investment thesis, if you don't feel like you're a person who can hold out for that long, you're gonna panic and you're gonna make a decision, an emotional decision that you didn't really think through in the first place. So, but real estate is interesting. And I don't know if
Yeah.
when you think of your overall, call it financial well-being, is real estate playing a part in it now, or will real estate play a big part of it soon in your future? Or in general, did you plan on it?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll necessarily be a real estate investor. I plan on buying a home, but I don't know if I'll be a real estate investor. If I have the means and I would like to, just for diversification reasons. But another thing that you mentioned that I think is key and why I do also see the allure in securities is because he was talking about the performance over the past 3 decades. And he
Mm,
said real estate is very steady and reliable. You won't see as much volatility. He said over that same period, I think he said, since 2020 or since 2000, we saw in the real estate market only a crash in the GFC. Otherwise, prices have been pretty steady and up and to the right slowly. He said in the securities market, you had the tech bubble, you had GFC, you had COVID, you had 2021 or so, where the inflation surge, and it gives you an opportunity to get in at good prices that you wouldn't have in the real estate market because it's just not as volatile. The price fluctuation isn't as much, which I thought was interesting. But to answer your question, no, I do think real estate will be a part of the portfolio, hopefully, right? But
okay.
definitely focus on the securities market right now.
Okay. Okay. All right, dude. Time's up, but we might make this a 40-minute episode actually, there, because the kids are about to go to bed and I don't want to yap very loud with my mouth. I just thought about that
All
right
good,
now.
brother. All good,
But
brother.
man, I'll see you on the next one.
All right, my man.
All right, dude. Love, love, love,
See
love.
ya.